Rise and shine, Fever Dreamers. Look alive, my friends. I'm V Spear.
And I'm Sammy Sage.
And this is American Fever Dream, presented by Betches News.
The show that continues to watch 19-year-olds dismantle our government brick by brick, so you don't have to. We are here today, joined by our favorite friend, host of the Hysteria podcast, the youngest and first female Deputy Chief of Staff
for Operations.
Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations under Barack Obama, and a championship jam maker.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Alyssa Mastromonaco.
But thanks, guys.
And our dear friend.
I'm so excited to be here. I was going on and on before we started that you are my comfort podcast.
You are my
that.
comfort person.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
have fun.
you.
We have fun here.
I love that for me.
I love that for
you
me.
do chef stuff. The chef stuff is nice. I did chef stuff before. I think you have to. Do you cook with love or do you cook with hate?
Love.
Okay,
Love.
I cook with hate. If I'm pissed, we're having good dinner.
Well, I will say that when I am depressed, when I'm real sad, I come up with some of my best combinations.
Like what?
So like I was really bummed out once and I was just in the kitchen and I was just like being quiet and smelling things. And I was like, what is that? And it was the apricots next to the basil. So now every summer I make apricot basil and it is delicious. It is truly
sounds
delicious.
very good.
I know.
That sounds
It's
like something
uplifting.
you'd get in Tuscany.
It's nice with a little fresh ricotta.
Ooh.
On
Okay.
a toast.
I would love to just share like a cheese plate with you,
Oh, are you
should do
kidding?
that.
right?
You guys, you know, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me is that Adam Platt reviewed my jam for New York Magazine.
Oh my God. Where
Yeah.
do we read this? Can we put that up on the screen?
Oh, I'll get you the
Yeah,
little
show
article. It was
notes.
awesome. It was me and Josephine's Feast, which is another delightful jam company.
You have a lot of like very random fun facts.
Thank you. Because like, what are you if you're not interesting? You know what I mean?
Boring.
I know, but I'm the kid who went to college. So I was a freshman at the University of Vermont in 1994. There was no online registration back then. And so I looked around and I was like, oh, these lines are so long. And then there was this very handsome guy who I'm still friends with who was on the Japanese line. You guys, I ended up a Japanese minor in college because
Wow.
I was
Wait,
like,
you just
let's
signed
learn.
up like for your minor, just like you
Well,
got on a line.
I signed up to take the course, and then I was like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever done." And I like how many people could speak Japanese. And then like when I graduated college, I was a paralegal in the World Trade Center, like the original Twin Towers, and I would give directions to Japanese tourists all the time.
Wait, so I have to ask, do you speak Japanese now?
Oh, watashi no nihongo eto mama desu kedo ne.
What did you just say?
I said something close to my Japanese these days is really only so-so, which is actually even stretching it. But
well, you sounded like fluent.
Sounded good to me.
thank you.
Yeah. Oh
Ready
my
to go.
gosh.
You guys, we've covered so much territory in like 3 minutes.
Wow,
Well,
we have.
didn't even, and I actually wanted to start with, are you guys, well, I know Sammy's Jewish, but
We know I'm
Alyssa,
not
are you
Catholic.
Catholic?
I am not Catholic, but half of my family is, and I've
Okay.
met the Pope.
Okay, right. We're going to
Okay.
get to that next because the Pope is hot stuff right now. Now,
Hot
I was
stuff.
raised Catholic, full like the 90s fun Catholic, you know, like did the full thing. Like
Depends
where
who you
you're-
ask.
You know what I mean? Well, it wasn't fun. Yeah, I say fun in like a dark way, you know? But I was like 90s Catholic, which I think is like a true Catholic upbringing. We went to church on Sundays, you know, you did your little CCD stuff. I had a
Yep.
confirmation name, all that business. This weekend, my whole For You page on TikTok is people who call themselves cradle Catholics, which I guess is what I would be, fighting with this new Gen Z convert Catholic who...
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. I don't know why.
And
It
they're
just
like,
is.
who's the right kind of Catholic? And
What?
the argument was, if you're a cradle Catholic, you know that you have to have a sense of dark humor about the Catholic Church because
Yes.
there's a lot there, right? And that's sort of how we deal with it. And you got to have a little sense of humor about it. But these kids are showing up and they're like, I'm home. I'm like, we don't use that language. That's the evangelical language. And they're like getting confirmed as adults, but they're wearing like sundresses. I'm like, first of all, I didn't spend my entire youth kneeling and having nuns scream at you about the length of your skirt for some bitch to show up in a sundress and get confirmed, okay? In a veil. And I'm like, we don't do veils. Vatican II. Vatican
Mantillas.
II. Mantillas.
Whoa.
So it's crazy online right now with the new Catholics who are almost like evangelicalized.
Is it like the
people coming to
trad wife
Catholic
version
Church.
of Catholicism?
It is.
Yes.
And you know
Yes.
what? I'm not standing for it. I'm not
I
standing
agree
for
with
it.
you.
I agree with you totally, not as a Catholic, but I do feel a kinship towards Catholics because I do think that the closest types of Christians to Jews are Catholics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
understand.
I feel that, yeah.
It's like you can't look, if you don't have the Jewish mother and the like the stuff, like
you're gonna have the
guilt around like, oh, you better not eat on Yom Kippur, like the torture, the memories of like having to be in shul and like just so bored. There's a cultural piece to it that you can't add later in life.
No.
Also, they didn't like us. All these people who were coming from evangelical Christian to Catholic, I'm like, y'all used to make so much fun of us because we didn't have rock bands, right? Because we were so dramatic. Now you come in and you see these gilded churches, right? And you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this an aesthetic. And I'm like, the hell you are. I've never been so devout a Catholic as I have been since the Pope died. I'm like defending this shit. And I don't even like it.
It's easy.
I know.
Well, it's easy when there's no one.
You got to put a little skin in the game. You don't get to cherry pick.
Well, you know what I think? I think people were like maybe evangelized, no pun intended, by Kourtney Kardashian's wedding. So they see, they're like, oh, the stained glass, the gorgeous, they're attracted to the drama. You know,
the aesthetic.
Yes, it's an aesthetic. MAGA's an aesthetic. Everything's an aesthetic.
Okay, so for folks who may not know, the Catholics had a form of like a constitutional convention in 1965 where they gave like more rights to women, and they said you don't have to wear veils anymore to church. And they actually were like, hey, we're going to throw a couple Bibles out here for you guys to read instead of just waiting for the priest to tell you what it says. We're going to let you do that. And the Vatican II is the reason why like your little aunt gets to be a reader at church and why they have like women singers and stuff now. So there's a lot of advancements for women.
What year was Vatican II, V?
1965.
Okay.
And it's been like, you know, and it did pretty good. Now I'm kind of like, okay, 2025, we can't have the Gen Z aesthetic Catholics trying to like bring us back into this super trad place. Okay.
Right.
Like we were starting to move towards like, you know, maybe gays could stay Catholic or like divorced people could get communion, you know? But,
So
the folks, V, the folks who you see who are really trad wifing it,
Yeah.
are they very conservative too?
I think they're very aesthetically MAGA is what it seems like. It's like the JD Vance thing, right? And we should do an episode on like what the Opus Dei version of Catholicism is and this new JD Vance kind of Catholicism because it's very spooky. But the one thing I want folks to know from Vatican II is like the core piece of it was the idea that the church must engage in dialogue with the world, quote, not to conquer, but to serve, not to despise, but to appreciate, not to condemn, but to comfort and save. And I don't feel like these kids really knew that part. And if you're going to be Catholic, I need you to know that part, okay?
Well, if you think about Vatican II being in the 60s, it really makes sense that they're kind of like, well, let's disregard this because it comes along with all the stuff that we don't like that we kind of want to turn back anyway. So it's just kind of easy to be like, well, if you just skip over Vatican II, you get the thing we want again. And you know what really gets me about all this stuff is that like, the idea, like we haven't mentioned God once in this conversation. Like it's supposed to be about you and the God.
No, that is, but have you guys, we actually talked about it on Hysteria last week. Have you clocked the new, it's pretty new, the conservative website, The Conservator?
No.
You guys,
is
it
this
is
the
like
one with
Vogue.
all the businesses?
Wait,
No,
yes,
it's
I
like
did.
Vogue
Yes, I did.
For the right for MAGA.
It's like Evie, but if it were chicer.
Yes. So Evie, I feel like is very Cosmo Glamour and Conservator is feeling very Vogue. But there's so much. Again, they're never talking about God, but it's like this woman of faith did da 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 da, and every tag. It's
like
really
faith
wild.
in what?
It's just the faith, Sammy, just faith.
I have faith.
See, that's evangelical, though. We can't do that. And then they want to come over here and they're like, I talk directly to God. I was like, no. You got to go through your lineup of saints first and your guardian angels. And then maybe you can bother Jesus's mother, but you don't go straight to Jesus. Right? You could go to Mary as kind of like tops for you, you know. And then maybe
When do you get to go to
Peter.
Mary?
Well, if you're having a woman problem, certainly, right? If women speak to Mary, right? Mary's very important. But you can go to her. You go to Jesus's mom for some help. You go to St. Anthony if you lost something. You go to St. Christopher if you're traveling. You know, you got different people for different things. You can't just come into the church with your shoulders and your knees showing and say, I'm talking directly to God. Like, that's not how we do it over here, okay?
Yeah.
I have a question. Does it bother them that you go to these other figures? Like, do they consider that to be like polytheistic?
Yeah, they think well, that's the problem though, because that's the difference between Catholic and Pentecostal and all these other things is the Catholics do the saint lineup first. We got all these extra helpers, right?
Right.
And they're like, well, I have a direct relationship with God. I was like, the hell you do? You got to go through the Trinity, and you got to start at the beginning, guys. Who's your confirmation saint? How did you pick them? Did you just pick your grandmother's name like most of us? Did you actually research
Who's
your
yours?
confirmation?
Yeah,
Vitus?
who's yours?
Vitus.
Yeah.
V.
Right.
Yeah, it's great.
What was Vitus known for?
Vitus was the patron saint of singers, dancers, and actors. You pick your confirmation saint when you're 13.
That's
okay?
wonderful.
Yes, I made it my legal name, which is
Yeah.
Yep. And
Wow.
and he also liked dogs and left home at 13. And I was like, you know, an angsty 13-year-old. And I was like, Vitus, I'm picking it. And now it's a character in the Hunger Games. It was a very obscure saint when I picked it.
Wow.
Very cool.
You made Vitus
Yeah.
happen.
I
Yeah.
did. I made Vitus fetch. And now I fear that my TikTok fame has brought these aesthetics to the Catholic Church. I feel like I may have been a gateway.
Oh, you think you were like an influencer by
Yeah,
accident?
I accidentally Catholic influenced
no.
the radicalized Gen Z.
Well,
Yeah.
you should maybe like be more overt about your saint obsession or something.
I
Because they
know.
might be like, ooh, I don't know. Okay, we are pivoting from the Pope and we are talking about democratic comms. Everyone's
Ugh.
favorite conversation.
Another
I'm
thing
just
being
going to sit
poorly
back and listen to
communicated.
V.
Well, here's the thing. No. You're here for a reason because you know stuff.
To rake me over the coals.
No, definitely
No, 'cause
not.
this
is
Okay.
your zone.
No, you're going to do the raking, actually.
Yeah,
Oh, well, we'll
this show
see.
is like
You know,
show and tell, okay? I just showed and told about Catholic. Now we're going to show and tell about Democratic comms.
Let's do it.
Okay, Alyssa. So you're very familiar with how things really work in the party, like
Fair
like,
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, the behind the scenes.
But let's be clear, no one calls and asks my advice.
Well, that's their problem. Maybe that's the problem. Perhaps.
the problem.
I'm just saying anything I say is just of my own free. I have
That's
never
good.
spoken. I have spoken to anyone in years.
Well, that's actually the problem. I think we're going to learn from this, and maybe after this they'll put you in charge. I don't think they will because they are obsessed with being in charge themselves, but maybe they can be wrong. Okay, so let's talk about like technically the party is failing in terms of
aren't
its
going
communications.
great.
Not going great. I think that can be widely agreed upon by the American public and most people who kind of exist on this base.
As evidenced by the fact Democrats have a lower approval rating than Republicans right now.
Yes, and even though Trump is losing points in his approval
Yeah.
rating, it's not like those points are getting transferred over to the Democrats. He's just losing them.
No,
The Democrats aren't gaining it.
Everyone's in the toilet.
Bad, and deserved. But okay, how does like the actual comms infrastructure work in the party? Like, whose job is it to be determining what the Democratic comms strategy is, and why are they not doing it well?
You know, I think it's always changing, right? But I think one constant is that in times when we have like thrived, we had very strong vocal party leadership, right? We had a leader in the party. There is I think it's hard to argue that there's a leader right now.
No.
You know? And I was thinking about this the other day, but the only time that feels as analogous is right after 2000, when Clinton was weakened because of impeachment, Gore had lost. We still, I think back then, Ed Rendell, who had been governor of Pennsylvania, I think he had been governor at that point, you know, was head of the party, very strong, like almost like Tony Soprano-esque. Mafia, get in line. You know, that was always sort of the thing about Rendell. And, you know, I think that helps, right? Even though then Clinton and Gore were both weakened, leaving the party sort of in a bit of a spin, you had Rendell, who within the party was such a strong figure.
What was he trying to get people in line for?
So back then, you're getting people in line to raise money. You're getting people in line to take votes. You know,
Okay.
you're unifying the party.
Right.
He's the person, and again, far less, you know, mediums for media back then.
Right.
But he would be the person on the nightly news, ultimately the cable news, which, you know, came just around that time. So that was different because he was speaking with one voice, right? I think it will always be harder the further and further we go to have that kind of, like, even though that was I thought a weaker time because we didn't have either president or vice president as the leader, you still had, I thought, Rendell. Now, and you also had so few ways to communicate. So it was easier to get on TV, give the same message night after night, drive it home, pick the one good person who was your messenger. Now we have hundreds of elected officials who can get on Twitter and say whatever, whenever, or X, whatever you want to call it, or Truth Social, say whatever, or hopefully Democrats. Well, I don't know. Maybe Democrats should be on Truth Social. But I think it is harder now. And on top of that, you know, Speaker Pelosi, and this is no knock on Hakeem Jeffries, but Pelosi had a sort of like Rendell effect. You know, she was the boss. And I think that makes it a little easier, was seen as the boss, was at the time a good messenger on television for years and years. So now she has stepped back. Right? It takes someone a minute to take the helm in a way that is as, you know, we didn't think of Pelosi 10 years ago as we kind of do now, right? As someone who had that sort of hold on the party.
It's also different because I don't think her messaging is like her strength.
No, not now. But
it's really.
But look, I feel comfortable saying this. I loved being White House Deputy Chief of Staff. I knew when I was running out of gas and I left. Right. So I hold other people to the same standard. And I don't feel bad about that. And so I think that the problem now is everyone's kind of new at their jobs, right? We have a new DNC chair. Hakeem Jeffries has been leader for 2 years, right?
And has Pelosi's still running so much shit behind the scenes there.
But I think she's trying to help him.
I do think I 100% think she wants him to succeed.
I think she does
too. This is a Nancy Pelosi hate account on my side.
I know you be, but hear me out. For any of us who have a position of leadership, we have a stake in the person who comes up behind us doing well. It is a reflection on her if he does not do well, I think.
I think with her, she has a very particular set of skills. And she, part of why she was good at messaging on TV at the time was because she could actually whip votes into a strategy. And now
she had the caucus.
Right. Now look, we know that she's actually quite strategic. She did get Biden out of the race. Like, let's be clear. It was her. Like, she drove it with her appearances. She did. Like, and when you actually look at like what points were like inflection points of him getting out, it was because of her. Like, there was no one else who was pushing it like she was, where he could have recovered and she was like, tip you off. And she still has it. It's just that she's functioning in a world that is no longer working like she is. And what you said about like, they can go on TV and they can just, back in the, the 2000s, like they could go on TV and it's like, there's a few channels for messages. So only a certain number of messages are going to get out.
Exactly.
But now they're competing with endless messages from everywhere.
Everyone's
me making messages, me making messages, crooked media, like everybody. And then every elected official or not. And then I think what you end up with is like these algorithms, and you end up with the right wing, which you look at any of those charts and bubbles, like they have all of the impressions. And so it's really hard to break through, especially if you don't have someone who on the Democratic side can like really galvanize people.
Right.
And it's such a big tent and people are so mad at each other.
Everyone's the family's fighting.
Yes.
Right? The family's fighting. It's like the family stone and we've brought it to real life.
Oh, yes.
And I think that for now, what would be great is if everyone could look to someone. I was really blown away. I guess blown away is the right word, by Mayor Pete's, I always call him Mayor Pete.
I think
Pete
Buttigieg,
by Secretary Buttigieg's appearance on Andrew Schultz.
Right? Was still stick with Mayor Pete. It's like there's something about
There's something about Mayor Pete that I do think it works.
It's a good brand.
But he was succinct. It was cause and effect. It was like, here is what Trump, multiple things. Here is what this country needs, spoken in the roads you can get to work on, a school that you can afford for your kid. I mean, like very fundamental things. And he told you what Trump promised and how he was failing. And to me, it just needs to be like that. I thought that was such an appealing message. I wanted everyone to listen to it, because if Democrats could say that, people in every state will listen.
Okay, so on that point of using influencers and podcasts and whatnot, there's been criticism of like Gavin Newsom and going on the right wing, Pete and going on the right wing, this one and going on the right wing. And then there's what the Democrats have assembled as like the Democratic influencer class of people, where they're bringing in creators, maybe TikTokers or YouTubers, and they are getting access, usually in some basement of the Senate building, and they are just round robin making content for like 6 hours with these TikTokers and folks like that. What do you think about that strategy for Democrats? Or is this another thing where it's like, too many messengers?
No. Yes to that. Yes to that. It is the message everyone should be delivering on those platforms that I think needs to be clear, humble, basic, and also aspirational, right? I think that's really what Mayor Pete laid out, which if everyone took a version of that in their own authentic language, I do not want Jasmine Crockett speaking like Mayor Pete. Right. But she does deliver a very similar message in her own way, which I also think she's a great messenger in the party, because people want, you know what it's like, V? Like I want everyone to talk to as many people as they can. But there was some like weird dance challenge.
Choose your fighter.
Choose your fighter. Yeah. Okay. See, there are just certain people who shouldn't do that. Or if you're going to do that, do it in a way that is like, That's like me when I dance. You know what I mean? I'm in on the joke. And I think that people just need to stick with what is authentic to them. That works.
Yeah, and not use a trend from like
here's where that fails though. See, this is where I get a little jealous of the way that the Democrats will treat a right-wing influencer versus say like a left-wing or me influencer. Is like when Pete went on that show, he did not get to control any part of the conversation or have to present questions ahead of time or have to get things cleared. When they bring Democratic influencers or creators in, it doesn't happen to me per se, but I've seen it happen down the line, especially with younger creators where they're like, well, what questions are you going to ask? Well, in what order? Well, what day is this coming out? Well, at what time? Because they're essentially just stacking their buzz talk points at these creators. And I wish that they would in some ways give the trust to our side that they give to the right side, so that these people can be authentic and get into a conversation, and then we don't end up with stuff like do the trend.
They treat the Dem creators like you're our megaphone, and like we know that you have these values and these views, so therefore just give us the microphone.
No, and I agree. That's where it falls down, because then the medium doesn't work. Right. The message doesn't work and the medium doesn't work, because the people who come to it look at it and they're like, you fake ass bitch.
I think that the thing.
Well, they almost become more impressed with the right wing stuff. Like you'll see Pete on the right wing podcast got a ton of extra coverage, where Pete on maybe like the Midas Touch, it doesn't go as far. Why? Why aren't they pushing it as far? Why aren't they as impressed?
Because he doesn't need to explain anything revolutionary to the Midas Touch guys. It's just like, how fun is it to be like, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
Right.
It's like, that's not interesting. You have to either like spill tea. And like I've said, when people ask for like elected officials to come on here, I'm like, are they going to make news? Like, unless it is someone like Jasmine Crockett, who is an incredible communicator. And I actually just
literally was on both of our podcasts in the last month because she's terrific.
She can say anything. And I'm gonna share. I actually was last week we had her on here. I interviewed her, and then the next day I'm part of this pack in New York. Basically, they help to get mostly like women elected. They're looking for women to get elected on the national stage. They pick a few candidates and they have like a great win rate. So she came to like meet these people, and it's honestly like a bunch of 85-year-olds on the Upper East Side, like a bunch of old Jewish grandpas and grandmas, and like, you know, and the way that she was able to speak to this room as herself, not missing a beat, no changing, no like code switching. Not that there would be anything wrong with it if she did, but there's like the way that she was able to embody herself and speak in the exact same way, and like level with these 85-year-olds the same way that she could come in here and talk to us, in the same way that she can sit on the oversight committee and confront things. Like, she is the real deal.
Look, and there are people who, I think the most effective communicators are the people who have been Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has been speaking the same speak since I was an intern in 1994. And well before that. And it's because he doesn't waver, so people trust him.
Yes.
right? They don't hear different things out in different venues. They don't hear a different affect. They don't hear that, so they trust him. Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, from the day I met that man, he does not speak differently to different groups of people. It is he speaks the way he speaks. And sometimes people would say, oh, he's aloof. And it's like, no, he's just matter of fact. He's just telling you how it is.
He's so friggin' cool.
Why do you think this became so
coolest.
important? Why do you think over everything,
what?
Someone who speaks like themselves has become at least for me, and I think for a lot of the electorate, this bellwether of whether they're good enough? Because
it's interesting because let's go back again to 2000, right? People liked how George Bush spoke. Now, some of us thought he was unintelligent. It was have a beer with him.
He sounds like.
So then who is next up, right? John Kerry. He was not he's a very smart man. I worked on that campaign. I have known him for a long time. He is a empathetic, smart man. He was not a good communicator. So think of the juxtaposition. He's the presidential nominee, 2004. And who gives the best speech of the convention? Barack Obama. In a time when Democrats were so hungry for someone who was really going to inspire them in a way. And I think that Barack Obama sort of, Jimmy Carter before him, but didn't have the same kind of platform, right? Also was not he was a plain spoken, good communicator, but he wasn't a soaring orator in the way that Obama was. And so I think that he came along at a time when people were really hungry for that. And now people, it just, of course, depends on how old you are, but people of a certain generation, when you want to feel good and confident and inspired, you still may look back to that 2004 speech. And so I think we're just looking for that next person who can speak in that way and get us inspired and inspired about things that mattered and are achievable. And, you don't have to have exponentially chaotic rhetoric to have people listen to you, right?
Right. Well, depends.
I guess it's true.
Well, I think Cory Booker's trying to be that person
He's
right now, right?
So
and
great.
I think it depends, right? I think he hits with people who have the attention span to understand what he's doing and the historic monumentalness of something like beating Strom Thurmond's longest running speech on the floor and the importance of him sitting on the Capitol steps, like two black men sitting on a stoop talking about how they're going to fix their neighborhood is important, and what he did with Hakeem Jeffries had a bigger meaning. I'm not sure always that I think it does really well with millennials and older. I see a lot still of them not getting the Gen Z folks to see it as important or connectable on the level that I think we need to, because Gen Z tends to be so quick to be like, that was performative. He's doing it for attention. And it's like, yes, of course. We are bringing back a segment that we had a lot of folks want us to bring back, known as Delulu Girlie of the Month. And this is where we are going to talk about somebody who is so wildly delusional that they deserve an award and recognition, both as, the cultural touchstone that they are and the cautionary tale that they'll become.
All right, I guess I'll start. My Delulu Girlie of the Month is a perennial Delulu Girlie. It is none other than President Donald Trump. And there's always a new reason why he's Delulu, but the reason I'm choosing this month is the tariffs. And what I've realized is that the belief in tariffs is the closest thing this man holds to spiritual faith. And he has this is the only thing that he has solidly just continued to believe in for as long as he's been speaking. Everything else he has flip-flopped on, not the tariffs though. Not the tariffs. So despite the fact that every economist, anyone with a calculator can tell you that this is a bad idea, what he is doing, and he is destroying the global economy and our standing on the world stage, yet he is continuing because he is Delulu and he thinks that this is going to help. Although
he's adding them.
Although, let's be real. Oh, right. We just got one on the movies last night, but let's be real. This is because they want to set up a parallel economy. So they don't care if they weaken the United States economy. They want their sovereign wealth fund and their external revenue service and the crypto reserve. That's going to be the new economy, the new MAGA economy. So, Delulu.
Do you think it'll stay though, Alyssa, or do you think that will crash? Should I buy some meme coin, or is this just going to bankrupt the MAGA?
How'd the Reichsmark do?
I feel like it's going to go tits up at some point.
tits up in the butter.
Honestly, I have a hard time seeing anything that like Don Jr. is loosely in charge of going super well.
Maintaining.
Yeah.
It's all like a Ponzi.
And it's also,
not
it's
even
like,
a Ponzi
look what they
scheme.
did.
It's
No,
like-
but it is. It's like they let in a bunch of dope people. They tipped him off. Trump announces it. Like it's like buried right. V, didn't they announce it? They announced the crypto coin on like inauguration day or whatever. So it was buried in the news. People didn't pay attention. The night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then
At the crypto ball.
they all sold after all these poor Americans who voted for him for the price of eggs. They go and buy the coin because he tells them they're going to get rich. And then he tips. Then somehow there's a mass sell-off event and a bunch of people make hundreds of millions of dollars and other people lose all that money. Like it just feels like fool me once.
Fool me 85 times. This
I
man's
know,
been doing it
I know, but
since he has lived on this earth as an adult.
I know, but every time somebody
Trump
loses
University.
money, you hope that, people probably lost more money on this than a Trump steak, Trump vodka, Trump University.
We got to find these people, right, who are willing to tell the story of like losing their money on the Trump coin, because it just continues to be a thing. I mean, people bought the Hawk Tuah coin and did better than the Trump coin.
Wow.
It's a rug
Crazy.
pull. It's a rug pull. Alyssa, who is your Delulu girly of the month?
You guys, do you know, wait, what's her name even? I just know human printer girl. Natalie Harp.
Natalie Harp.
Oh, we know her. We've been wanting to talk about her for a while.
You guys, what on earth is wrong? Okay, human printer. This came out in several articles and in Michael Wolff's book, I think, over the past year. But she is known to carry a printer so that she can print out, which, by the way, was found out because apparently she's not that good at her job. And she dropped her papers all over the plane once. And the reporters saw what she had printed out, which was like old fan blogs, memes of Trump, like out of date articles, just like total a fan blog, basically. She prints out a fan blog for him.
It's hilarious.
But I'm like, okay, well, what's her real deal? Because all of these articles were written because she was going to work in the White House. She had been an OANN news anchor who then joined the Trump campaign and wanted to be so close to him that when they decamped to Bedminster, she stayed in the locker room because she wanted to be close. And when that wasn't close enough, she bartered her way into a maid's quarter in the main house.
Or did she barter her printer?
I have no idea, but she's considered a threat by the Secret Service because she wants to be so close to him all the time. They tried, but here was my thing. I'm like, okay, well, all
Then
these
make
articles
her leave.
Well, all these articles were written because she worked in the White House, but I couldn't figure out what job she had in the White House. So I dug. You guys,
do tell.
you
What does it
remember
say?
in the West Wing, Mrs. Lanningham? Remember where Mrs. Lanningham sat?
Yeah.
That's where
She was
Natalie Harp
critical.
sits, right outside the Oval Office. She's in what is called the
Really?
Outer Oval, which means she has walk-in privileges to the Oval. There was a whole shtick about how people that Trump wanted to see, who he didn't want other people to know he was seeing, would text her. Now, this made me so upset because you guys,
Wait, but how is the Secret Service letting this happen?
So all that
He
needs
tells
to
them
happen.
to let her stay, I think.
He's the one who's like,
And
so
they're
they have
like,
eyes on her.
"We think she's
but he's like,
dangerous."
keep her here. But she is obsessed. Like apparently they went to some NCAA wrestling tournament and he was like, oh, look at these guys. She was with him and he's like, oh, these guys are very handsome. And she, according to reporting, turned to him and was like, no, they're not. There's nothing about them that is handsome to me. Like,
What?
She's whack.
Yeah.
Her father,
She's
her
like
daddy's big
65
Christian.
clinger?
Yeah, no, her daddy's a big Christian real estate agent, and she's got an MBA
Christian
from
real
Liberty
estate agent? What
Nah,
makes the real
what
estate
are houses
Christian?
I don't know. That's just
They
how it's
come with
described
with
here.
a crucifix hanging already.
And she has an MBA from Liberty University, so she's deep in the cult. She's deep.
Oh, and in the most Delulu of all, in one anecdote, Melania Trump reportedly, quote, stumbled upon Harp late at night in Trump's private quarters at Mar-a-Lago, an area that was typically off limits to those outside Trump's family.
Do you
okay.
think she's like a Hope Hicksing it?
But Hope was better at her own messaging. I think Hope is much smarter.
Hope had like a real
Right?
job.
Hope had a real job.
Right. And this is
Hope had a real
Printing.
job. But it was the same sort of closeness that feels uncomfortable to people looking
you know what it is?
at it.
It's limerence. Do you know what limerence is? Does everyone know what limerence
What's
is?
limerence?
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. So limerence is like okay, how do I describe it? It's sort of like an addiction to a person. It's like like more than a crush.
Okay.
Like, because people can be limerent for someone they don't really know. Like, you could be limerent for someone you know very well. You could be limerent for like your own partner, but it's like they're addicted to the person and the attention they get from the person.
Right.
Where it's like, did you ever see like Notes on a Scandal?
No.
Like with Judi Dench and Kate Blanchett, maybe. Okay, I'm trying to think of like other limerence movies, like bunny boiling stuff, like
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction.
She was compared to Glenn Close by some in the Trump universe.
Yeah, it's like
single white female.
Yes, single white female, but it's like it doesn't have to necessarily be like sexual. Like a limerent relationship can exist between just like someone in like the cashier at their works at their grocery store. Like, you know what I mean?
She is Delulu for a lot of reasons, but mostly because I think that she must believe the epilogue to her story will be different than everybody else's. I mean, she will be the fall person for something.
Well, you know what she did do? It's on her Wikipedia. She's the one who remember when he posted a video that referenced the unified Reich?
Yes.
She was the one who was responsible for posting that.
I saw that.
And and then also she is quite obsessed with him, I think, because he instituted something called like a right to try law where people could try experimental
This is the craziest
drugs.
part.
And she says that without him, she'd have died. Like she thinks he saved her life, which maybe he did. But now he's defunding all that shit.
No, that's my point. How could she stand? Like, that's what makes her the most Delulu is that this cancer trial that she got to try was because of this law. Like, all of the things, it had not been FDA approved. Like, and she got to do it. And this is what they are defunding and taking away from everybody right now.
Experimental drugs for me, but not for thee.
It is outrageous.
Caroline,
I can't.
V, who's your?
Where does Laura Loomer come into all of this?
Oh,
with
they're
Natalie
definitely
Portman
she texts. So according,
they're friends.
Yes, Loomer will text Natalie when she wants to see Trump,
and Natalie's like, yeah, you can see her.
She comes in outside. Weird. She must come in outside the Susie Weil.
Right, Susie Wiles is the official channel where like the real meetings happen.
No, or is it the real meetings happen
through Natalie Harp?
Laura Loomer comes in and Mike Waltz is suddenly USUN.
Right.
I mean,
they chase Peter Navarro out of the room.
Oh my
Peter,
God.
you have a package.
So terrible.
Yeah.
I watched that Tara Palmieri interview of Laura Loomer. I think everybody should watch it. It's very unnerving when you get a long clip of these people because we usually see them just, in little sound bites. When you watch her for I think it's 40 minutes on Tara Palmieri's Substack,
That's funny, V. You and I get the same. We got fed the same emails this weekend because that one is bookmarked for me too.
It's really good, but it's like where your chest is tight the whole time. Like you're afraid that somebody's going to jump scare you the whole time she's on the screen. It's sort of how I feel about Marjorie Taylor Greene in person. She's very
Who's your Delulu girlie of the month, V?
It's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is mine. One, because when you think that you're making a good decision about somebody that you should trust or be friends with, and you're like, no, they'll be okay. They should be able to hang with the group. I was like that about Marco Rubio being Secretary of State or whatever. I was like, of all the choices, he'll be at least the least bad of the choices. Maybe this will be an okay thing. And I was very wrong. This man is full drinking the Kool-Aid and fully participating in what's going on and now has 19 jobs. Trump has made him Little Marco a big part of his.
But you know what I think that is, V?
Do tell.
Now Marco Rubio will never be fucking president.
Well,
they have hung so many albatross around his neck.
That's true.
I'm telling you, I think it's all just J.D. Vance telling Trump what Marco should do. And Trump's being like, okay, they're all saying he's doing a good job because then Trump will be like, okay, he'll take it. But to me, this is a giant scheme to make sure he is never president.
He'll fail. I mean, Trump yesterday said that he sees J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio as his successor. So maybe, he's got them WWE style fighting 100%. In the back rooms.
There's going to be a pile driver somewhere down the line.
Well, I guess my question is yes, except who else would get that job? Who else could viably do it?
The National Security Advisor?
Who?
It's easy. It's
got
not
fired.
No.
He got fired.
No, I know, but it's not a Senate confirmed position. They just have to appoint somebody.
Well, maybe there's no one who they have to vet that person for loyalty to the crazy shit,
right?
And it's not that easy to find.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's not that easy, I think, to find people. You know what I mean? They have to keep their circle of trust.
Rumor that they were thinking of it being Stephen Miller.
Oh,
I had seen that on the internet somewhere.
Isn't Stephen Miller kind of already doing everything. Like
Yeah, I don't know.
my belief is that he's kind of the orchestrator. He's the conductor.
He's the conductor. I might want to change my pick. I don't know. Maybe I want to change my pick to Mike Johnson, who's living with his preacher. There's so many to choose from the Trump administration. I'll stick with Marco Rubio. But when I think about, it's like give a mouse a cookie. Once we talk about one of them, then I remember a crazy thing about another one and a crazy thing about another one. And I can never stop. Oh. And these people are running the country.
So who do we think should win this month?
You didn't even mention with Trump that he did an AI photo of himself as the Pope. Speaking of Delulu, you only did the tariffs.
You know what? That Trump wins. The Delulu, the
Trump's
Pope.
Gotta win.
Pope is
whoever's running that White House account.
Who is it? How do we find out? I want to interview them so badly.
Same. Oh my God. Should we try to figure it out?
What if it is Stephen Miller?
It's not. He doesn't Instagram.
Is it Dan Scavino?
No, I think it's a kid. It's a kid.
No.
It's someone who's
but
younger.
he must have a boss.
Younger.
Whoever the person.
But
yeah.
The boss is just saying, "Good job, go get him, kid."
But let me tell you something:
balls?
official accounts retweeting political accounts. You guys, it's all it's daggers in my soul in so many different ways.
It actually was supposed to warm my soul if it had gone a different way. This would have been great.
I know.
Just gonna say that
He's wild.
Yeah, okay, so that is Delulu Girlie of the Month. It's Trump. May his Delulu never come true. Lulu.
Yes.
Last thing we want to just talk about, I know we didn't get into this in the comms. Alyssa and I were talking about our sort of dream ticket as of this moment. We don't know.
Yeah, just us having a good time.
Let's say the election, if the 2028 election were somehow today.
Yeah.
We were saying that we think the perfect ticket would be Pete and Jasmine Crockett.
Amen.
V, what do you think?
Ooh, I love it. I do love it straight off. What about AOC for Secretary of State? No, she waits.
She's
She's
only going to be 38 during this election. I think too young, and I think that her message, I don't think she has enough time to
I also
sell
think
herself.
She's a great messenger. As she is now, there's the Senate in New York, there's governor in New York coming up. I feel like there are other opportunities for her to do even more and be more visible if she wants to.
True.
Yeah, I think
so. It's not a holding her back.
I might challenge your ticket with a JB Pritzker presidency.
And
I wanted to say Gretchen Whitmer, but obviously it can't be both of them.
Why?
I don't know.
I love JB though too. These
I
are
love
all.
JB
You know what?
Pritzker.
You guys,
I think JB Pritzker's
we're
great
picking
too.
all people who we like to listen to.
That's true.
Yeah,
We love
And I
JB's
like that he dressed
speech.
up
Yes.
for the Star Wars Day.
Yes, I think JB Pritzker would be very, very good. I think that I wonder if he has the it. I think he's great, but does he have?
Mayor
needs,
Pete,
a little soldier.
Mayor Pete to me has the ability to explain issues the way Barack Obama did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thoroughly, thoughtfully. You may not agree with him at the end, but
You trust him.
You trust him.
I think what it is okay. My belief is that the Americans, when you're in a kind of 50-50 situation, which we have been for a long time, the things they want to hear are competence, and they want liberalism without the intense social war. They want the freedom of liberalism, that live and let live vibe,
Yes,
but they don't want to have it in their faces. They don't, I think it's the wokeness in people's faces was more offensive to them than whether the actual policies of quote unquote wokeness were going to be enacted.
We'd have to see how Chasten does then, right? Because Pete Buttigieg comes with Chasten, and that could go either way. Sometimes Chasten or Chasten? Chasten. Sometimes Chasten gets in there, in fights and different stuff, and it could. I don't know. Is Chasten the new Jill Biden? I don't know.
Well, people might like that. People might find that I think that there's something very.
It's authentic.
I don't know. You can see both. I can see them being more likable as a couple than who you just said.
Yeah. We'd have to see. Yeah. I
But
don't know.
either way, good choices.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what? We could be a ways away. We'll see.
We are a ways away. We are. We have like 3 years. There could be a totally new person.
Oh, no. Someone's going to announce.
Somebody we know?
Someone's going to announce in a year.
Somebody we don't know, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Someone will announce in a year.
Someone will announce in a year.
Is that too
I've sort of, I've also kind of like pulled away from the Democratic Party overall. I now work with the Working Families Party, which of course caucuses with the Democrats and whatnot, but I've just enjoyed being in that group more than like the DNC group. You know, DNC is kind of messy. Working Families Party is like a little bit cooler. So maybe we could get them a bigger platform and folks would like their candidates.
My thing is that I pulled away from all parties and everyone can go fuck themselves. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
not
just
a
want to
third
make
party either.
everyone
It's
love
just,
each other.
Yes, exactly. Right? Why can't we all just get along?
Maybe our pal Marianne Williamson will get back out there. I mean,
Indeed.
she was fascinating.
Yeah, but not for president.
No.
This is, again, people need to stop looking for like the
I'd give her
final boss
secretary
job
job,
of
though.
president.
I'd give Marianne
agree.
Williamson like secretary of something. She's
What?
got ideas.
Secretary
I don't
of
know.
what?
She's got. What now? Look at who we have now. I mean, I put her in charge of a lot of different things. I think she's pretty interesting lady. I'd put her on something.
Put her on like the arts
She'd be
panel or something, like the
Yeah.
arts council.
I mean, guys,
sure.
fundamentally, she'd be better at HHS than RFK.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
She's at least,
I mean-
she's at least knows how to organize around it. She's met sick people before. He's
He has.
job
He's-
who eats
he's met sick
roadkill and
people.
had his sister lobotomized. Like, I'm not trying to, resign.
Again, I will never understand going to Brooklyn for Peter Luger's and then back to Central Park and then back to LaGuardia or JFK. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Anyway, shall we?
All right. Well, until next time, I'm V Spear,
And I'm Sammy Sage.
and this is American Fever Dream.
Good night.